Man, being a Russell Westbrook fan and just seeing this in general, it's honestly kind of, sad. But at the same time, it's just like, man, bruh. So, pretty sure as you all know, free agency period, it's kind of been stagnant. I mean, there's still a lot of guys unsigned. And, eventually it'll figure itself out. But, one of the main guys that's still unsigned is Russell Westbrook. And, I think there's a multitude of reasons of why he's still unsigned. I still think that he could produce on a team. There's a lot of intricacies that go into him playing on another team going into next season. But before I get into that, I just ask that y'all go down to subscribe. I appreciate, the channel growth lately. And, I'd really appreciate it. It doesn't take too long. And, let's just get into the video. So, going into this season with the Nuggets, a lot of questions were raised, like, can Russell Westbrook work with Nikola Jokic? How will he play with Nikola Jokic? Is he washed? And he kind of silenced the doubt a little bit. He played all right. I mean, averaged almost 14 points per game, 13.3 to be exact, 6 assists, a steal and a half a game. 45% from the field, shot 32% from three. We don't really expect Westbrook to be a knockdown shooter, but he actually was a knockdown shooter in the corners this season. I believe he shot about 36% from the corners, and then I think for a stretch he was shooting like above 40% on corner threes this season. So overall, he had a pretty decent season, and even in the playoffs, he had some moments. The first round especially. I don't see Denver winning that series without Russell Westbrook playing at where he played at. He has some pretty big games in that series. And then we get to the second round, and that's where things kind of just tumble downhill because the Thunder defensive schemes exposed Westbrook's, weaknesses in his game. And he didn't really have, too good of a series against the Thunder. But I mean, overall, looking at, the season that he had in general, you would expect Denver to re-sign him, and they haven't yet. And the thing is, I believe Denver would want to re-sign Russell Westbrook. I mean, they have a pretty solid bench, and necessarily they don't really need him, but I think he would add a lot of productivity that Denver wouldn't mind having on the bench. But the main reason I think why Denver won't re-sign Russell Westbrook is simply because he's asking for too much money, and that's my first reason why he's unsigned. I mean, the dude finished top 10, 7 to be exact, in Sixth Man of the Year voting back-to-back years. He gave you 13 points per game on pretty good, efficiency. And he's probably like one of the best backup point guards in the league if you just look at the statistical output that he put in this season. So seeing that and putting that production on a minimum contract, mind you, I think Russell Westbrook's seeking a little bit of money, if you know what I'm saying. I mean, Ty Jerome, I believe he got around like $12 million from the Grizzlies this year. And, he was a Sixth Man of the Year candidate. So Russell Westbrook's probably asking teams, pay me like $10 million a year at least. And I think teams aren't willing to give that. They just want Russell Westbrook's production, but they're not willing to shell out that money for his production. So I think that's the main reason why he's unsigned. Because if Russell Westbrook just came out saying, hey, I'll sign a minimum deal to any contender right now, every contender will probably be shelling out an offer right now if they see Russell Westbrook fitting with that team. The other reason I think he's unsigned is simply because where does Russell Westbrook fit? Teams basically have to designate themselves to playing Russell Westbrook's style of play. So you need a particular amount of shooters starting in your lineup and off the bench because Russell Westbrook's going to play with the second unit. And then, if he has a hot game here and there, he's going to run with the starters, as we've seen with Denver, as we've seen with the Clippers sometimes. So not only do you need, a balanced amount of shooting, you also need, I think, a primary playmaker. Having Russell Westbrook as your primary playmaker doesn't really necessarily work anymore, because obviously he has his turnover issues, which isn't really a big deal nowadays. I mean, everyone turns the ball over if you're a high-usage guard. But you need someone better than Russell Westbrook to run the offense and play make. And lastly, I'd say defense. Now, Russell Westbrook actually over the last couple of years has probably been one of the most underrated defenders in the league, at least at the guard position. Like, looking at him now, I'd say defense is probably one of his best attributes as a player. But, you still need a competent, defense around Russell Westbrook in order to not get beat too many times and to not be a negative on that side of the ball. Now, looking around the league, how many teams really have that? I mean, there's not really that much teams. And even then, you could say a contender has that, but does a contender really want Russell Westbrook to lead their second unit when, they have other guys that are capable of doing that put up the same production or even better production than Russell Westbrook? Now, I hope he doesn't go unsigned, but, there's a couple teams I could see picking up Russell Westbrook potentially. I mean, the Kings came to mind. They've been like the biggest pushers for Russell Westbrook, but I think those talks are kind of dead now because they signed Dennis Schroeder. But another team I could see going for Russell Westbrook is the Miami Heat. I know damn well he could put up way better production than what Terry Rozier is doing right now, and Terry Rozier is also dealing with the gambling stuff or whatever. He kind of just fell off a cliff, so bringing in Russell Westbrook to do that production that Terry Rozier used to do, I'm pretty sure Russell Westbrook's capable of doing that. I mean, another team I could see, maybe the Pistons, since, they let Dennis Schroeder go. Jaden Ivey is coming back, but it would be pretty nice to have a guard come off the bench and lead that second unit. Give him a little bit more of a punch, because Russell Westbrook's able to provide somewhat of an offensive punch when he does come into the game. But yeah, overall, I mean, there's not really that much teams. I mean, Denver, he could run it back with Denver, but I think he's just asking for too much money from Denver. The Nets, I mean, they're not really necessarily looking for a guy like Russell Westbrook since they have all these point guards that they drafted. And yeah, that's kind of all the teams I see that Russell Westbrook could potentially go. It's kind of just a sad reality that, these might be the final years of Russell Westbrook. And, being a fan for years, I mean, he's one of the most electric players I've seen, one of the most passionate players I've seen. He's a winning basketball player, even though I get he doesn't have the playoff success that a lot of other dudes have. He's shown that he wants to win basketball. His play style just doesn't very mesh well with today's game, with the pace and space, and just being a high usage rate player like he is or used to be. It's kind of the reality of Russell Westbrook. But let me know in the comments what y'all think. Some other teams he might potentially be able to go to. Just give me your thoughts down in the comments. And like, subscribe, and I'll catch y'all later.